Hi there, guys. Welcome back to day 2 of the Avery Sustainability Conference. The weather certainly making life difficult for a few people who had to travel in this morning if you weren't lucky enough to be staying here. But isn't it wonderful to actually see a company walking the talk with these recycled lanyards, the recycled bottles, and really demonstrating its commitment to being a responsible corporate citizen. And I think it's wonderful to see the feedback that we've had as well from the poll yesterday. Lots of engagement using the Bella app. And to remind you on the poll question, it was all about mechanical recycling. And the question was, do you think mechanical recycling can effectively solve the challenges in the recycling industry? And the consensus at 84% was that only partially could provide that sort of solution. So I think it's obvious to many in the industry, to many here, I think that it's a very complex situation. It's a very complex environment as well. But with that, I just thought I'd stimulate your grey matter a little bit this morning and see if we can get you out of your virtual conference-induced slumber, because you're now at a physical face-to-face conference, and I'd like you to engage. So, who wants to answer this question? Who's the biggest tire manufacturer in the world? Thank you. Thank you for helping us think out the box. But I'm sure many people would have thought the biggest tire manufacturer in the world would be Goodyear, would be Continental, Pirelli, Hankook maybe. But the biggest tire manufacturer in the world is Lego, the manufacturer of those annoying little blocks that you stand on if you're a parent. Anyone will know that experience of standing on a Lego. But I mention this because often the answers are not as obvious as they may seem. And I think in the recycling plastics industry, many of the solutions to these challenges, and we spoke about how you price this resource, might not be as obvious as they seem. So with that, today we're going to talk about solutions, and I'd like you to keep that in the back of your mind. As we know, many of these things are not as obvious as they seem. There was a very interesting survey this morning as well. It came out today. It's the PwC CEO survey. It's a global survey. It does have a slant towards developed markets and the US in particular. And I thought this particular stat, apart from the fact that CEOs are very confident about future growth, I think that's unsurprising considering the low base effect because of COVID. But what really struck me was in this year of COP26, CEOs are only marginally more concerned about climate change than they were last year. It's gone up from 26% to 30% this year. And I think that indicates there's still a lot of work to do around ensuring that this is a C-suite agenda, climate change. I do think, and speaking to Nico Vernicak, the CEO of Safripol earlier this morning, it's also an indication of perhaps where CEOs have been focusing with the administration in the US pulling out of the Paris Agreement. We now have a new administration in the US, so that's certainly going to drive things over the next 10 years, and I think increasingly it will become a more important C-suite agenda item. But very interesting bit of information that from the PwC CEO survey. Just to recap what we heard yesterday, we heard from Avashni that really we are driven by our commitments to keep the global temperature rises below 1.5 degrees. It's a drive to net zero carbon. It's part of our sustainable development goals. The President has certainly articulated that in his State of the Nation address as well. So all of these things at a macro level are driven from the top down, and that has really informed Safripol's strategy. But it's still a question of how we get there. How do we achieve a lower carbon footprint, and how do we coordinate and collaborate across the entire value chain? And I think that is one of the critical challenges, I guess, is to get that coordination. But it does start with the kind of leadership that we saw in the Safripol strategy that was announced yesterday. I'd just like to remind you as well that because of the weather, we've had to move the lunch venue to the back of Tradewinds restaurant, and that is at 1 o'clock. I'll remind you again just before lunch. So don't get lost and don't head down to the bar, or maybe do head down to the bar. I'll see you there. And keep on engaging, please. We've got this lovely app, Brella, and we'd like to see your questions, your comments, and your feedback coming through in that app as well. And we did see our first speaker this morning quite active yesterday on the app, talking about the circular economy and maybe questioning one or two comments that were made about whether or not bottles indeed do float, or whether or not they sink down to the bottom of the ocean. I think semantics at the end of the day, the point is that we need to see less plastics flowing into the environment, and we need to rather reclaim these. So with that, I would like to hand over to Prof. Harro van Bloknitz, who's going to talk about the circular economy indicators and the case of plastics.